The M109 Paladin became the backbone of NATO artillery during the Cold War. Introduced in the early 1960s, it was designed to keep pace with armored divisions while delivering devastating indirect fire. Armed with a 155mm howitzer, the M109 could fire high explosive, smoke, illumination, and later nuclear-capable artillery shells. What made the M109 revolutionary was its fully tracked chassis, allowing it to move off-road alongside tanks. Its rotating turret gave it 360-degree firing capability, while aluminum armor protected the crew from shrapnel and small arms fire. Throughout the Cold War, the M109 was continuously upgraded, increasing range, accuracy, and survivability. It became a symbol of Western artillery dominance and remains in service today in modernized forms. The M110 was one of the most powerful self-propelled artillery systems of the Cold War. Armed with a massive 203mm gun, it was designed to destroy hardened bunkers, command centers, and enemy artillery fought behind the front lines. Unlike turreted systems, the M110 had an open-top design, prioritizing firepower over protection. Its shells were capable of carrying conventional high-explosive or tactical nuclear warheads, making it a critical component of Cold War deterrence. Though slow to reload and vulnerable to counter-battery fire, the M110's sheer destructive power ensured its place in NATO arsenals for decades. The M107 was built for range rather than armor. Its 175mm gun could strike targets over 32 kilometers away, making it one of the longest-range artillery systems of its time. Developed during the height of Cold War tensions, the M107 specialized in counter-battery fire, targeting enemy artillery before it could threaten friendly forces. However, its long barrel caused stability issues, and it was eventually phased out in favor of more balanced systems. Despite its flaws, the M107 represented America's obsession with long-range fire superiority. The 2S1 Gvozdika represents one of the most important shifts in Soviet artillery doctrine during the Cold War. Introduced in the early 1970s, it was designed for one clear purpose: to support fast-moving armored and mechanized units during large-scale conventional warfare in Europe. Armed with a 122mm howitzer, the Gvozdika combined mobility, protection, and firepower in a single platform. Unlike earlier Soviet artillery that relied heavily on towed guns, the 2S1 was fully tracked and could keep pace with tanks across rough terrain. This was critical for Warsaw Pact strategy, which emphasized rapid offensives and deep penetration in enemy territory. One of the most unique features of the 2S1 was its amphibious capability. Using a sealed hull and water propulsion system, it could cross rivers without engineering support. This allowed Soviet forces to maintain momentum during offensives, even in terrain dense with rivers and canals. The enclosed turret provided protection against shrapnel, small arms fire, and battlefield contaminants. Inside, the crew operated under NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical protection, an unmistakable sign of Cold War expectations, where artillery units were expected to fight in contaminated environments. The Gvozdika could fire a wide range of ammunition, including high explosive, smoke, illumination, and rocket-assisted shells. While its range was shorter than NATO's 155mm systems, Soviet doctrine compensated through massed fire, rapid deployment, and sheer numbers. Thousands of 2S1 units were produced, not just for the Soviet army but for allied nations across Eastern Europe, Asia, and Africa. Its reliability, ease of maintenance, and simple design ensured long service life. Even after the Cold War, the Gvozdika remained active in numerous regional conflicts, proving the effectiveness of its original design. In Cold War history, the 2S1 Gvozdika stands as a symbol of Soviet operational thinking: simple, mobile, and built for large-scale mechanized warfare. The 2S3 Akatia was developed as the Soviet Union's direct answer to NATO's increasingly powerful 155mm artillery systems. Entering service in the early 1970s, it was designed to deliver heavier firepower while maintaining battlefield mobility. Armed with a 152mm howitzer, the Akatia could engage targets at long range and deliver devastating fire against fortified positions, troop concentrations, and enemy artillery. Its ammunition options reflected Cold War realities, including conventional shells, as well as specialized munitions intended for strategic deterrence. Unlike earlier Soviet designs, the 2S3 featured a fully enclosed rotating turret, improving crew protection and allowing rapid target engagement in any direction. The chassis was based on proven Soviet tracked vehicle designs, ensuring reliability under harsh conditions. The Akatsiya was not designed for speed, but for sustained fire support. It played a critical role in divisional and corps-level artillery units where its heavier shells could shape the battlefield before ground forces advanced. In Warsaw Pact doctrine, systems like the 2S3 were used to saturate enemy defenses, disrupt command structures, and suppress counterattacks. Accuracy was less important than volume and timing, and the Akatsiya excelled in delivering overwhelming firepower on command. Produced in large numbers, the 2S3 became one of the most recognizable Soviet artillery systems of the Cold War. It served not only in Europe but also across Asia and the Middle East, remaining operational long after the Cold War ended. The Akatsiya demonstrate the Soviet belief that artillery was the god of war, a decisive force capable of breaking enemy resistance before direct engagement. The 2S5 Gietzint S was built for one primary mission, long-range destruction. Introduced in the late 1970s, it represented the Soviet Union's attempt to counter NATO artillery with superior range rather than heavier armor. Armed with a powerful 152mm long-barrel gun, the Gietzints could strike targets far beyond most Western systems of its era. This made it ideal for counter-battery fire, destroying enemy artillery before it could threaten Soviet forces. Unlike turreted systems, the 2S5 featured an open rear-mounted gun. This design reduced weight and allowed for a longer barrel, increasing muzzle velocity and range. However, it also exposed the crew, reflecting a calculated trade-off between protection and firepower. The Gietzints were designed to operate behind the front lines, firing from concealed positions and relocating quickly to avoid retaliation. Its tracked chassis allowed it to reposition rapidly, a critical feature in Cold War artillery duels. Its ammunition included high explosive and specialized long-range shells, enabling deep strikes against logistical hubs, command centers, and artillery batteries. While not produced in the same numbers as the 2S1 or 2S3, the 2S5 played a crucial niche role within Soviet artillery formations. In Cold War doctrine, the Gietzint symbolized escalation control. Its presence alone served as a deterrent, reminding NATO planners that Soviet artillery could reach deep into rear areas. Even today, the 2S5 remains a stark reminder of Cold War artillery competition where range, power, and speed mattered more than crew comfort. The 2S7 Pion was not designed to fight on the front lines. It was designed to terrify everything behind them. Introduced in the mid-1970s, the 2S7 became the most powerful conventional self-propelled artillery system fielded by the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Armed with a massive 203mm gun, the Pion was built to destroy deeply fortified targets, enemy headquarters, hardened bunkers, missile sites, and strategic infrastructure. This was artillery intended for operational and strategic level warfare, not routine battlefield support. Unlike traditional turreted systems, the 2S7 used an open rear-mounted gun. This allowed engineers to mount an extremely long and powerful barrel without overloading the chassis. The recoil was so intense that the vehicle used a large rear spade to anchor itself into the ground before firing. The Pion's ammunition was equally formidable. Its shells weighed over 100 kilograms and could be fired at targets more than 35 kilometers away. In Cold War doctrine, these shells could be used for conventional strikes or for missions associated with high-level deterrence planning. Crew survivability was not the priority. The vehicle relied on range, mobility, and operating from deep behind friendly lines. After firing, crews were trained to relocate immediately to avoid counter-battery fire. The 2S7 was never meant to be produced in large numbers. Instead, it served as a strategic artillery asset, deployed only where overwhelming firepower was required. Its presence alone sent a clear message: Soviet artillery could reach far beyond the front lines. The Pion embodied Cold War escalation logic, artillery systems designed not just to fight wars, but to prevent them through fear of devastation. The FV-433 Abbott represents Britain's answer to modern mobile artillery during the Cold War. Entering service in the mid-1960s, it was designed to provide armored divisions with responsive and accurate fire support. Armed with a 105mm howitzer, the Abbott prioritized mobility and rapid deployment over sheer firepower. Its fully enclosed turret protected the crew from shrapnel and small arms fire, while its compact size made it easy to conceal and reposition. British artillery doctrine emphasized precision, coordination, and flexibility. The Abbott fit perfectly into this philosophy. It could deploy quickly, fire accurate barrages, and relocate before enemy counter-battery fire could respond. One unique feature of the Abbott was its ability to fire HESH, high-explosive squash-head ammunition, traditionally used against armor but adapted for artillery roles. This reflected Britain's innovative approach to ammunition design. Although its range and shell size were smaller than Soviet systems, the Abbott was reliable and easy to maintain. It served extensively with British forces in Europe, forming a key part of NATO's defensive posture against Warsaw Pact advances. By the late Cold War, the Abbott was becoming outdated, eventually replaced by more powerful systems. However, during its service life, it proved that effective artillery did not always require overwhelming size, only precision, training, and tactical discipline. France's AMX-30 OF-1 marked a major leap forward in Western European artillery design during the late Cold War. Introduced in the late 1970s, it was built to combine heavy firepower with advanced automation. Mounted on a modified AMX-30 tank chassis, the OF-1 featured a fully enclosed turret housing a 155mm howitzer. Unlike earlier systems, it incorporated an automated loading system, allowing for a high rate of fire with a reduced crew. This automation gave French artillery units a significant advantage: rapid fire missions followed by quick relocation. In Cold War artillery duels, speed often mattered more than armor. The OF-1 was designed to operate in nuclear-contaminated environments, with full NBC protection and advanced fire control systems. Its shells could reach targets over 30 kilometers away, putting it on par with leading NATO artillery systems. French doctrine emphasized independent operations and flexibility, and the OF-1 reflected this perfectly. It could deliver devastating fire support while remaining highly mobile and protected, although produced in limited numbers compared to American or Soviet systems. The AMX-30 AF-1 became one of the most technologically advanced artillery platforms of its time and remained in service well beyond the Cold War. It represented the future of artillery: automated, protected, and deadly accurate. The AS-90 marked Britain's transition into modern heavy artillery at the very end of the Cold War. Although it officially entered service in the early 1990s, its design philosophy was born directly from Cold War battlefield lessons and NATO requirements. Armed with a powerful 155mm howitzer, the AS-90 was designed to deliver sustained, accurate fire while remaining fully protected. Unlike earlier British systems such as the Abbott, this vehicle emphasized fire parity with NATO allies and survivability against counter-battery threats. The fully enclosed turret provided excellent crew protection, including NBC shielding, allowing operations in environments expected during Cold War escalation scenarios. The gun system supported a wide range of NATO standard ammunition, giving British forces logistical flexibility. One of the AS-90's defining strengths was its high rate of fire combined with modern fire control systems. Crews could quickly deploy, fire multiple rounds, and reposition before enemy. Radar systems could respond a critical advantage in Cold War artillery duel. Although the Cold War ended before the AS-90 saw its intended role in Europe, it represented the culmination of decades of artillery evolution. It was built not just to fight, but to survive in a battlefield shaped by precision weapons and rapid retaliation. The AS-90 symbolized Britain's commitment to remaining a major artillery power within NATO, even as the geopolitical landscape shifted. The Type 83 marked a major milestone in China's artillery development during the later Cold War years. Introduced in the 1980s, it reflected China's effort to modernize its ground forces and reduce reliance on outdated Soviet-era designs. Armed with a 152mm howitzer, the Type 83 delivered firepower comparable to major Cold War artillery systems. Unlike earlier Chinese platforms, it featured a fully enclosed fighting compartment, improving crew protection and battlefield survivability. Chinese military doctrine during the Cold War emphasized massed artillery fire combined with mobility. The Type 83 was designed to support armored formations while maintaining the ability to reposition quickly after firing. While its technology lagged behind Western systems in terms of automation and fire control, it compensated through reliability and simplicity. The vehicle could operate in harsh environments with minimal maintenance, an important factor for China's vast, varied terrain. The Type 83 also represented China's growing independence in weapons manufacturing. It was not merely a copy of Soviet designs, but a hybrid system incorporating domestic engineering choices. Though produced in limited numbers, the Type 83 played a key role in transitioning Chinese artillery toward more modern platforms, laying the groundwork for later systems that would emerge after the Cold War. Although the PLZ-45 officially entered service after the Cold War, its origins lie firmly within Cold War artillery evolution. Designed using lessons learned from decades of global artillery development, it represents China's shift toward NATO caliber standards. Armed with a 155mm howitzer, the PLZ-45 was designed for long-range precision fire, matching Western artillery systems in range and lethality. It featured a fully enclosed turret, advanced fire control systems, and improved crew ergonomics. The PLZ-45 reflected a strategic change in Chinese doctrine from massed fire to accuracy, automation, and rapid response. These ideas were shaped by Cold War observations of NATO and Soviet artillery engagements. Its chassis provided excellent mobility, allowing it to accompany mechanized forces and redeploy quickly after firing. NBC protection ensured survivability in high-threat environments anticipated during Cold War escalation planning. While not fielded during the Cold War itself, the PLZ-45 stands as a direct product of Cold War competition, showing how decades of artillery rivalry influenced next-generation weapons. The system demonstrated that China had entered the modern artillery era, capable of designing systems that could compete on the global stage. The M44 was one of America's earliest attempts to create true mobile artillery in the early Cold War era. Developed in the 1950s, it reflected lessons learned from World War II, where artillery often struggled to keep pace with fast-moving armored formations. Armed with a 155mm howitzer, the M44 provided heavy fire support while mounted on a tracked chassis derived from the M41 Walker Bulldog. This allowed U.S. artillery units to move rapidly with armored divisions across difficult terrain. Unlike later Cold War designs, the M44 featured an open fighting compartment, leaving the crew exposed to the elements and battlefield threats. At the time, survivability was secondary to mobility and firepower, a mindset shaped by earlier conflicts. Despite its limitations, the M44 played an important transitional role. It demonstrated that self-propelled artillery was the future, even if early design lacked protection and automation. The M44 served with U.S. forces and allied nations throughout the 1950s and 1960s, helping bridge the gap between World War II-era artillery and more advanced Cold War systems, like the M109. Historically, the M44 represents the experimental phase of Cold War artillery, functional, imperfect, and essential for future innovation. The M55 was built during a time when Cold War planners expected massive armored clashes across Europe. Introduced in the mid-1950s, it was designed to deliver overwhelming firepower against hardened targets and masked enemy formations. Armed with a powerful 203mm howitzer, the M55 could fire some of the heaviest artillery shells in the U.S. arsenal. Its fully enclosed turret was a major improvement over earlier designs, offering better crew protection and all-weather capability. The M55 was intended for corps-level fire support, striking targets far behind enemy lines. Its shells were capable of destroying bunkers, bridges, and fortified positions, critical targets in Cold War planning. However, the vehicle was heavy, slow, and mechanically complex. As artillery doctrine shifted toward mobility and rapid response, the M55 gradually fell out of favor. Despite this, the M55 played a crucial role in shaping U.S. artillery thinking. It proved that heavy self-propelled artillery could be protected, mobile, and devastating. All lessons applied to later systems. The M55 stands as a symbol of early Cold War escalation planning, where raw firepower was considered a decisive factor. The Band Cannon 1 was one of the most unique artillery systems of the Cold War. Developed by Sweden in the 1960s, it was designed around one revolutionary idea: overwhelming firepower in the shortest possible time. Armed with a 155mm howitzer, the Band Cannon featured an automatic magazine holding 14 rounds. This allowed it to fire all 14 shells in under 1 minute, an astonishing rate of fire that stunned military observers. Worldwide, the purpose was simple: unleash a massive barrage, then relocate before the enemy could respond. This shoot-and-scoot philosophy made the Band Cannon extremely difficult to counter. Built on a heavily armored chassis, the Band Cannon was designed to survive on a battlefield shaped by Cold War fears of rapid escalation. However, this protection came at a cost. Fuel consumption was enormous, limiting its operational range. Only a small number were produced, but the band cannon's influence was significant. It demonstrated the effectiveness of automation and rapid-fire concept that would shape future artillery systems around the world. In Cold War history, the band cannon once stands as a bold experiment proof that innovation could rival sheer numbers or size.